This week on What's in Your Kitchen, Chef Kennedy.
Yes.
This food is so good.
My pleasure.
How would you describe your menu for today?
Okay, basically, Nelly, this is what my menu tool encompasses. Chicken, bouillon, the free-range kienyeji chicken, the crushed arrowroot that we have here. All these are just natural ingredients that we can find occurring in a local way. So we're just going to give them an international twist from what we're used as a local perspective point of view.
Yeah.
Good evening, welcome to Prime Edition. I am Cynthia Nyamai. Now, tonight, the president defends himself and dismisses claims of misuse of public resources. And in business, we'll be talking to a young man in Young and Industrious who took up mentorship from his dad and now runs one of the most successful mechanic shop in the country. And in sports, we have the boxing qualifiers, that and much more. But first, let's have the highlights.
I am a very responsible steward. Believe you me. There is no way I can spend 200 million. There is no way.
Our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. And remember, we would love to hear from you. You can send us your comments on our social media pages. That is KBC Channel 1 on Facebook, Instagram, and also Twitter. You can also send me a message on my Twitter page. That is Cynthia Nyamai. Now, President William Ruto has dismissed claims of misuse of public resources in his recent state visit at the United States of America. Ruto, who led the nation in marking the annual National Prayer Breakfast meeting, said his trip to the U.S. cost the taxpayer only 10 million Kenya shillings, as the private jet he used was hired at a discounted price. Ruto maintained he will ensure prudent use of funds from the public coffers.
Thursday morning, leaders and Kenyans converged in Nairobi for the country's annual National Prayer Breakfast under the theme of inspiring hope for the nation, led by the bicameral House. President Ruto, presiding over the event, underscored the importance of prayers.
We went to Nyayo Stadium and prayed. And God gave us rains. Today, we have enough food in Kenya. It is amazing what God can do.
Through prayer, we have now food security, and the country is moving in the right direction.
It is at this event that he delved into the ongoing debate on how much his recent trip to the US cost the taxpayer. Ruto stated that the hired jet was obtained at a discounted rate.
When I was told the cheapest plane was 70 million, I told my office, go book Kenya Airways. Yeah. So when some friends of mine heard that I was going to travel Kenya Airways, and we have built a big reputation as a country. We have built friends. Some friends told me, how much do you want to pay? I said, I'm not ready to pay more than 20 million. They said, bring 10 million, we will give you the plane.
Additionally, he stated the country's economy was on the path to recovery, and he'll ensure prudent use of the country's resources.
As I tell others to tighten up their belt, mine must be where to begin. So relax, you know, and the debate must end because I am that responsible.
And there were also light moments.
Your Excellency, our spouses, led by mine, Pastor Dorcas, were demanding that we emulate the president and hold their hand wherever we go. Ukiwa rafiki yangu na mtu wangu lazima nikuibie siri. Nimepata habari. Kwa hiyo maneno utaitwa kwa men conference halafu utajibu.
It is true that I have been summoned by the men conference.
Leaders present pledged to heed the president's clarion call.
Create jobs, but at the same time, make sure that we do not spend carelessly as a country.
Even just for our country to have that respectful stage of having a state visit, we should be singing about it as Kenya.
The event, marked every year, is aimed at fostering harmony and cohesion among Kenyans.
Since its inception back in 2003, 21 years down the line, this year's national prayer breakfast leave Kenyans with the spirit of hope for a better tomorrow for Kenyans and the nation at large. For Prime Edition from Safari Park in Nairobi County, my name is Gladys Mungai.
Thank you, Gladys Mungai, for that report. Now, Azimio La Umoja Coalition leadership has termed the proposed taxes contained in the Finance Bill 2024 as punitive, warning they risk impoverishing Kenyans. Speaking during the Citizen Legislative Conference, the coalition, led by Wiper's party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, called for a reduction in taxes to ease the burden of Mwananchi.
We are twins. With the county.
During the Citizen Legislative Conference, an engagement between the public and political leaders on the proposed Finance Bill 2024 and NADCO report, Azimio La Umoja leaders expressed frustration on the pace the bicameral House was taking in considering the key bills in the NADCO report.
6 months or so later, since the report was unveiled at the Hilton Garden Hotel, in November last year. We are now in June, actually. No single bill has gone through. Out of the 9 bills, the only bill that is nearing completion is the IBC Amendment Bill.
Led by Kalonzo Musyoka, the leaders called for a review of some of the proposals in the Finance Bill 2024, which they say will have far-reaching ramifications on Kenyans if passed in the current form.
We must do now, tomorrow, and always, in the spirit of self-independence. We must reject the apparent tokenism of public participation in favor of true and effective public discourse and engagement that leads to a legislative agenda that reflects the desire of the Kenyan.
Among the issues they signaled out as concerning were VAT on bread and the proposed motor vehicle tax.
Take the issue of the tax on bread. There is a good reason why bread has all this time been zero rated. Very good reason. Then you wake up one morning, you want to introduce 16% VAT on bread. You are simply telling Kenyans that they are on their own. That particular tax must be rejected, and we shall stand firm to ensure that it does not see the light of the day.
The opposition also called on legislators to listen to the voice of Kenyans when debating the bill in Parliament.
The rise of artificial intelligence requires a borderless security strategy to combat multiple digital threats such as sophisticated identity theft and impersonation. This was the message by President William Ruto to Kenya Defence Forces cadets during their graduation ceremony held in Nairobi. Ruto challenged the new recruits to be alive to the changing security landscape owing to the rise in digital technology such as denial of service attacks and other associated risks.
Thursday at the National Defence University in Karen, Nairobi, 65 graduates were awarded certificates at a graduation ceremony presided over by President William Ruto. It is here that the president called on the recruits to be alive to the changing security landscape, saying gone were the days when security revolved around being on the offensive or defensive of the hostile armed parties, to an era where digital technology introduced a new dimension, proving to be radically disruptive.
At the last graduation, I challenged this college to embrace a holistic approach to defense and security, focusing on innovative solutions through research and academic discourse. I am encouraged to have received a strong and positive response on this in the form of a policy report on bottom-up strategies to combat cattle rustling in Kenya's North Rift region, utilizing multidimensional approaches.
Further, he said as the world economy becomes more integrated through globalization, supply chains are integrated more closely, while at the same time countries rely on digital technology to support their lives, which was exposing them to the new threats, specifically the emergence of artificial intelligence. Ruto urged the recruits to utilize their skills to combat the new emerging security challenges. Additionally, he lauded efforts by the Kenya Defence Forces to ensure gender inclusion as more females rise through the ranks in the military chain of command.
I am gratified to see the increasing number of female officers among participants each year. This commitment to gender inclusivity reflects the Ministry of Defense dedication to fostering diverse and capable leadership.
John Kahiro, Prime Edition.
Over 200 traders from Gikomba Market have moved to court seeking orders to stop the ongoing demolitions of their premises. The aggrieved traders say they were not given notice to vacate as required by the law. The traders will know their fate on 10th June when the court renders a ruling on the case. Ruth Wamboi now reports.
Thursday, and the Gikomba traders streamed to Milimani Local ready to receive their fate in the ongoing demolitions. They keenly followed the court's proceedings with their lawyer Danstan Omari, urging the court to issue an injunction, halting the demolition and allow them to go back to their businesses.
Raisi wetu mpendwa Ruto alikuwa anapita hapo kwetu Solidarity akasema hakuna mtu atawaguza watu wangu, hakuna mtu atawaguza, na saa hizo ndio tumeguzwa, tumemalizwa, hatuna mwelekeo.
Hatia tunauliza ya kwamba kwa nini walikuwa wakatuitisha leseni wakijua kwamba watatubomolea vibanda zetu.
Kwani Kenya hii iko na watu kabila gani? Manake mimi ninashangaa, ukishika kazi unaambiwa wacha, afadhali muizi nini?
The over 222 traders argue that they have operated in the area since 1932 and have been paying taxes to the Nairobi County government without fail.
Demolition must be done within working hours, that is 8 a.m. up to 5 p.m. they cannot demolish outside those timelines. Demolition must be done only on weekdays, not on weekends.
The court has directed the Nairobi County government to respond to the application, and parties put in their submissions and await a ruling. And Milimani's Magistrate Court will decide tomorrow whether the office of the DCI will hold 3 Nigerians and 2 Kenyans who are being investigated over drug trafficking.
It is not true, Your Honor, that the suspects have applied to scars that have been alleged in the supporting affidavit.
We have compelling reasons to commit these people to jail for 10 days pending investigation. The answer is no, Your Honor.
According to the DCI's miscellaneous application, the suspects were arrested on 28th May 2024 from their residence in Kileleshwa, and upon searching their house, police discovered narcotics. The prosecution told the court that the suspects had declined to open their door until they had to obtain a court order to break in. The Gikomba traders who have been up in arms over the ongoing demolitions at the market are now seeking the cost redress, citing that their livelihoods have been shattered. Ruth Wamboi reporting for Prime Edition from Milimani.
The first phase of the implementation of the Sanitation Technology Transfer Project is almost complete. The pilot phase that began in 2020 focuses on comprehensive sanitation solutions and enhancing the technical hygienic skills of youth and women in areas with high population and low sanity levels. The phase was fully funded by the African Development Fund at an estimated cost of $96,080.
Construction of safe toilets SATO, green toilet systems GTS, fecal matter treatment facilities, and enhancing of the technical skills of youth and women are some of the areas that the project focused. The project is being piloted in Kajiado, Kitui, Tharaka Nithi, and Kisumu counties. According to Julius Korir, Principal Secretary of Water and Sanitation, the project has been a success in the pilot counties.
We are at around 80% completion, and as we draw near towards the end of the project, we are now also looking at how do we scale it up so that we can bring this project to more counties in the country.
Sanitation Technology Transfer Project further seeks to offer knowledge and preparedness.
Also on the people to just know how to react and how to share the knowledge and the understanding among the community is important.
Phase 2 will train more people on the use of technology in enhancing sanitation and improving public health among the citizenry across various parts of the country.
We continue to conduct research and come up with innovative ways of enhancing sanitation across the country, not just with the use of the safe toilet system and the green toilet system, but also in other emerging technologies that will help enhance sanitation.
So far, phase 1 has been a success in the pilot counties as open defecation, waterborne diseases have reduced and hygienic levels have scaled up. Parsai Frederick, Prime Edition.
A retired military soldier in the outskirts of Busia County is traveling an unlikely path after serving the country for years in the military. Charles Akumbo has swapped his military boots and explored a new path that he says has breathed in him new life. The retired soldier, who spoke to KBC Channel 1, explains the ups and downs of his newfound hobby of beekeeping. John Kahiro has the story for you.
In a small village in Buhoi, Butula in Busia County, we meet Charles Akumbo. A 65 years old retired army was found a new mission in life. After serving in the military for many years, Akumbo decided to trade his combat boots for beekeeping, which he says has added flavor in his life.
Tangu ni retire 2019 toka KDF, nilikuja nikafurahia sana na mambo ya ufugaji wa nyuki. Tukaenda seminar hapo Butula, tukafomu sako, tukaregister na 1200.
After his retirement in 2019, he was unsure of the next step to take.
Nikaona his business ingine sitakuja kunisumbua. Nikaona nianzishe tu mradi wa nyuki. Huyo hauna competition, hauna shida mingi sana kungangana na watu.
This newfound path has presented a learning path that ranges from understanding the behavior of bees to marinating the health of hives. However, with patience and perseverance, he has mastered the art.
Nilikuwa na usia watu mbalimbali isipokuwa tu walikuja wakasema wengine na wawache nje, nami nilikuwa nimesema ya kwamba nilikuwa na hizi chupa mbili peke yake. Hizi chupa zinaitwa Hanicha na zinapatikana Nairobi. Paka niitishe Nairobi sikuje. Alafu for parking, unajua wakati umepaki na mnae imekuwa sili tayari, hata ukitumana kwa mtu anaona iko safe. Haina problem unless mtu akiangalia hapa imefunguliwa ataona maybe iko kitu fulani imefanyika.
Charles Sakumbo says his newfound passion sustains him financially and keeps him engaged.
Kwa kilo moja hapa tunauza 1000 shillings ambayo ni local honey. Sio ile asali ile imeunganishwa masukari nguru na masukari. Yangu inatolewa tu kwa msinga na kuja kuchungwa na kupakiwa.
But it's not all joy for the retired military man. He has to endure stings and not just from the bees.
Wale viongozi walikuwa hapo ndani, walikuwa natueleza 20 million inakuja, lakini walienda as far as blacklist simu zetu. Sasa hata hatujui wako wapi, walituacha hivyo. Msinga moja kutengeneza kama ni ile mbao mzuri ni standard ni shilingi 7,000 ili umalize. Lakini watu wameenda as far as wameingia wanatengeneza miti ile ichakomaa nini na kutoa nauza shilingi 4,000. Hiyo ni kitu inakaa mwaka 2-3 imeisha.
From protecting his country to now protecting his bees, the retired soldier has found a new purpose. His days filled with the sweet buzzing of his newfound battalion, whose rewards have brought sweetness to those around him.
Nyuki sinakuba tu, lakini kwa sababu tuko na uzoefu yao kidogo, hasiwezi kukuma, lakini ukija kwa bukeni hapa utachapwa tu.
John Kahiro, Prime Edition.
Well, they say if you're not doing what you love to do, then you are wasting time. We take a short break for now, but when we come back, CBC curriculum design and much more coming up.
When we agreed or decided to become members of the United Nations, we accepted both a commitment and a challenge. A commitment to live by the Charter and the declarations of the United Nations, and a challenge to make our contribution. Like everyone else, whether they be the so-called big powers or the small nations, but to make our contribution and to be a part of the whole, and not merely spectators who go to vote once a year and forget about it. This challenge and this commitment, I am myself confident that the government and people of Kenya are willing and able to meet.
Nilianza kuendesha boda miaka michache iliyopita. Wakati huo nilifikiria siwezi kushindwa, lakini siku moja nilikuwa hospitalini kwa miezi 3. Kwa saa moja karibu liondoe kila kitu. Mwaka moja baada ya kutoka hospitalini, nilihudhuria mafunzo ya jinsi ya kuendesha boda kwa usalama. Siku hizi niko makini zaidi barabarani. Wateja wangu wanaenjoy. Kumbuka, usalama kwanza. Boda ni life, lakini life si kitu bila usalama. Zingatia kanuni za trafiki. Hakikisha unavaa helmet na reflector jacket wakati wote.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Asanteni sana kwa kuwezesha Lotomoto kuwafikia wengi wasiojiweza kupitia star 570#. Hapo umewafuta wengi machozi, umewaelimisha, umewapa makao, umewapa lishe na umewapa matibabu kwa namna tofauti. Asanteni.
Asanteni. Asanteni sana.
Na kwako wewe mchezaji wa Lotomoto, unajipa fursa ya kujishindia Probox nayo. Na kama Probox haikufai na umejishindia, tunakupa taslim 750,000 Kenyan shillings na mshindi na mtangaza 30th of June. Na mwezi wa July 28th na mtangaza mshindi wa Demio nayo. Na kama utaki na umeshinda, wacha gari, chukua chapa 750,000 Kenyan shillings kwenye star 570#. Wewe si mshindi tu, wewe ni tegemeo kubwa. Tusaidie na tushinde!
For 60 years, the African Development Bank Group has played an integral part in Africa's socio-economic transformation. From the 27th to the 31st of May 2024, the African Development Bank Group will host its 2024 annual meetings at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi, Kenya. This year's theme will be Africa's Transformation, the African Development Bank Group and Reform of the Global Financial Architecture. The high-level meetings will be hosted by the President of Kenya, His Excellency Honorable Dr. William Ruto, and the President of the African Development Bank Group, Akinwumi Adesina, and will convene African leaders, development partners, private sector actors, civil society organizations, youth, among other stakeholders. This event will be live on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. The Kenya Private Schools Association is expressing concern over the overlapping of content in the competence-based curriculum. The association now wants the government to hasten the rationalization of the curriculum. Here is Wycliffe Okech with more details of stories from the Nyanza region.
Through their umbrella body, private schools directors argue rationalization of learning areas into the already identified pathways is necessary in rolling out the CBC design.
One gray area that we observed is that there are 7 lessons in sports and arts, which are supposed to be done within 1 week. Some of us back in schools have tried to double these lessons, and it is not advisable. We have been advised not to double, but to think critically and see how best we can apportion these subjects.
The education stakeholders further argue that continued delay by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, KICD, to update curriculum rationalization design continues to pose a significant challenge to JSS teachers through overlapping of content.
You realize curriculum is not a constant thing. It's reviewed every 5 years. And that is ongoing, and I think where there are weaknesses, they are being strengthened. Where there are strength, we are maintaining them.
At the same time, JSS teachers are being encouraged to embrace the co-teaching concept for better learning experience as rollout of the CBC education continues.
You find somebody is good in this particular area, somebody is also good in the other particular area. It depends with the content. So we also advise for co-teaching.
Meanwhile, the construction of over 1,000 affordable housing units at the Anderson Estate in Kisumu is now underway. The project by the local authorities pension trust, County Pensions Fund, in collaboration with the Kisumu County government, is projected to be completed within 2 years.
The Anderson Housing Project will create numerous employment opportunities, spur economic growth, and provide investment prospects for both the residents of Kisumu and our country at large.
The future would like to learn, when we are not there, how we resolve the problem of housing. Given 2 things or 3 things. 1, you give people habitation. But 2, you give them an habitation in an environment that provide and support their human dignity.
For Prime Edition from Kisumu County, I am Wycliffe Okech.
A section of road users in Rironi along the Nairobi-Nakuru Highway are protesting over the poor state of the road. They now want the contractor responsible for constructing and enlarging the highway to immediately close the Chungamali Underpass Bridge as it has become a black spot. This comes after a middle-aged man drowned at the spot on Saturday, only for his body to be recovered in a trench by the road earlier today. This and other stories in our county news roundup.
At Rironi along Nairobi-Nakuru Highway, a deep trench was dug to drain the storm water that had accumulated during the rains. Residents here are calling for the immediate closure of the Chungamali Underpass, noting it has become a major hazard for road users. The lack of warning signs or barriers makes the spot even more dangerous.
Kwa hivyo tunasema pale kuwekwa roadblock na ifungwe kabisa na iwekwe ilani ya kwamba hapa kuna hatari, ili mtu wote akipita pale asijaribu, hata hizi magari zina strain kupita hapa, sifungiwe kabisa, sisiwe sinakuja pande hii, sababu hapa kuna hatari na sio kwa mtu mmoja, ni hatari kwa wenyeji wa maeneo haya.
Elsewhere, Meru County Library will partner with schools in rural areas to make books accessible to empower marginalized learners in the region.
For the first time, I told people, we introduced a family reading culture in Meru County. That is where we had parents coming with their children. You sit down around your children and you show them literally other books rather than the ones they are used to reading in school.
Meanwhile, non-governmental organizations under the program Inua have donated goodies to flood victims in Mkuru kwa Njenga following the recent flash floods that had rendered many families homeless and led to the destruction of properties.
We know very many of our sisters and brothers were rendered homeless. And so today we joined hands with our different units to come and give them some support, some blankets and mattresses.
I've been in Kenya for more than 40 years. I've never seen such a crisis and people in so much hardship and so much trouble. So we're very grateful today for Tamarind to come and help them. And we hope others will follow suit. We know Kenyans are very kind.
In Kilifi County, a section of women have held peaceful demonstrations protesting the recent lifting of the Muguka ban in the county by the government.
Kwa hivyo tuko hapa kuupinga na kuupiga marufuku uuzaji wa mogoka ndani ya pwani kwa sababu mogoka umeharibu ndoa nyingi sana.
In Kitui County, several people with albinism have had their skin screened and educated on how to take proper care of their skin. Speaking during the exercise, doctors under the umbrella of the National Council for Persons Living with Disabilities noted that skin cancer has become a common type of cancer, with people with albinism at a higher risk of the disease.
Kila nusu mwaka tunakuja, tunaangalia watu wetu katika ngozi yao na tunaangalia kama kuna signs zozote za skin cancer, halafu tunawasaidia.
And police have launched investigations following the lynching of 3 men in Homa Bay County. The three are suspected to be part of a gang alleged to have invaded the home of a boda rider in Got Rateng in Mbita, killed him, raped his wife and stole his motorcycle.
Wakakuja wakapata kasubject tena yeye mob justice na wale wengine walielekea Mbita kaenda wakapata tena ile mwansaka na kasubject for mob justice.
Finally, the Council of Governors Chief Executive Officer Mary Mwiti now wants county governments to ensure all county employees are put under the integrated payroll, warning that the law does not recognize manual payrolls, which are still in use in some devolved units.
One of the greatest challenges in implement was actually the processing of manual payroll that was not inconsistent with the provisions of the law and that was completely ambiguous in terms of what is required by the control of.
Opicho Chemtai for Prime Edition.
Non-state actors want the justice system to find modalities on how to conclude femicide cases expeditiously, to have families of victims get justice and close the dark chapter in their lives. Led by All Africa Conference of Churches Program Director Reverend Ezekiel, the stakeholders noted that cases reported on femicide and GBV are on the rise and take years to be concluded. Not only is it emotionally draining, but the families of the victims also are denied justice sometimes. Speaking at a forum on ending femicide and gender-based violence at the Desmond Tutu Conference Center in Nairobi, the group wants collective responsibility among various stakeholders, citing cultural norms, poverty, alcohol, and drug abuse as major contributors of the vices.
We stand together to say no longer in our name should a woman, should a girl, should a wife, should a grandmother, should a daughter be violated.
Government should ensure that the legal system is working perfectly, not just in terms of getting laws, but ensuring that these laws are actually enforced. Because we are looking at cases where femicide is reported, but have we seen the case going to the head? What is happening? And is that a reason as to why people do not report femicide?
Tightening the issues on sensitization, ensuring that people are understanding what is going on the ground, and just push and creating those safe spaces.
I am excited at the fact that as people, as a society, and even as a country, we are now talking about femicides. This is an issue that has been happening, that we've been talking about, and just doing by ourselves.
No to femicide.
Welcome back. It's now time for business. Kenya has made significant progress in budget transparency thanks to sustained institutional and policy interventions. This is according to the latest Open Budget Survey that ranks Kenya 48 out of 125 countries in publishing budget information that facilitates robust public debate.
Institute of Public Finance CEO James Muraguri has emphasized the public's right to know how taxpayer funds are allocated and spent, stressing that budget transparency and public participation can lead to better budget quality, governance, and the redirection of spending to marginalized communities.
That quarterly implementation report does not meet the threshold of a half-year report because it is 2 quarters. July to December is the mid-year. But there are specific constraints due to the standards. The Open Budget Survey methodology has very high standards with regards to, because it's a standard across 125 countries.
Muraguri says involving citizens in the budget-making process enhances the public's trust in government, increases civic participation, and boosts tax revenue. Involvement of the public is also associated with the improvements in the quality of the budget, such as a lower deficit, more targeted budget priorities, and increased operational efficiency.
In both spaces, we still are not getting as much implementation reports. They remain one of the weakest, as we've seen in the national government, as we saw last week at the county launch one, that basically, the implementation, yet that is the most important information because that's what tells us whether we are going in the direction where we should be going.
The Open Budget Survey has been released amid the ongoing budget public hearings by the National Assembly's Finance and National Planning Committee for the proposed 3.914 trillion shillings 2024-2025 budget.
Youth and women should explore commercial farming of traditional vegetables to tap growing demand buoyed by popularity of healthy living lifestyles. Here is Regina Manyara with the details.
Traditional vegetables such as amaranth, African nightshade, and spider plant are renowned for their high nutritional value. The growing awareness about their health benefits has sparked a trend towards adoption of organic and locally sourced produce.
We're targeting producers and consumers. We see that there's an opportunity particularly for traditional vegetables in Kenya. There's a big demand in the big cities, and we are talking about Nairobi and Kisumu.
However, the supply of traditional vegetables is still low.
Focusing on the producers there, making sure that women who are traditionally involved in home gardens for home consumption now make that extra step using those very nutritious vegetables like the managu, the terere, the kunde, and making them available at a larger scale, but also creating a profit margin so that they can increase their business.
Ralph says a shift towards indigenous vegetables will help farmers achieve substantial income due to the relatively low production costs and the premium prices these vegetables command in the market.
So we try as much as possible to support and facilitate linkages also in the input supply systems, and at the same time we also try as much as possible to create demand also at consumption level.
Those in the traditional vegetables value chain are calling on the government to establish traditional seed banks and support local seed production initiatives to ensure easy access to quality seeds.
Sera ya mbegu ya Kenya lazima ielewe kwamba na traditional African vegetables nazo ni mbegu zinaweza zikalimwa na zikawafikia wananchi.
Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
The visually impaired have for long been locked out of enjoying photography. However, the visually impaired can now enjoy photography by filling the photograph through an innovative launched at the ongoing GTEX Africa Tech and Startup Show in Marrakesh, Morocco. Betty Kiptum got the experience and has this inclusive innovation and tells us more.
The visually impaired have been known to enjoy photography and art through voice-over descriptions. Camera manufacturer Canon has innovated an image printer that produces photos that can be felt as well as be seen.
Once they touch the picture, the sensory organ is lit up, and they can see or feel the images what we see it. So this is what World Unseen is for us.
The photographs are printed with the effects of eye defects. For instance, this image showing the reproduction of tropical coral has been printed to simulate early cataracts. This image of the last male white rhino, Sudan, being guarded by conservation rangers has been printed with a simulation of moderate diabetic retinopathy.
The moment they have, felt the picture, you can see the facial expression changing on their face, and that gives you, the accomplishment what we were trying to achieve and what we have achieved. And
along with the image whose characters can be felt by hand, there is an audio description as well as braille description on the side of the image for a good understanding of the image. Hamid Nabil, who is the first blind Moroccan student to earn a PhD, was present to experience the power of the technology, and the smile on his face tells it all. It is a woman, he says, in French, after feeling the image. Innovation for inclusion. This is the power of innovation right here. This particular photo cannot be seen by the blind or the partially blind, but they can feel it. It has ridges that define the characters here, and with braille descriptions right there of what this particular photo is about, people can enjoy art even if they cannot see. My name is Betty Kiptum, reporting from Marrakesh in Morocco.
Interesting innovation right now. Now, to make it as is the go-to motor vehicle mechanic, it may be assumed one needs to have attended a formal training. However, for 34-year-old Patrick Opanga, he has defied all odds and now runs a garage after acquiring the skill from his father's mentorship. Our reporter Ian Muse visited Opanga's garage along Nairobi Wayaki Way and filed the following report for this week's edition of Young and Industrious.
About 13 kilometers away from Nairobi's capital along Wayaki Way, at the heart of Kabete, we arrive at Opanga's garage. At the scene are different vehicle models, a clear evidence that we are entering a domain of vehicles associated with high performance, longevity, and impressive capability. His main specialization is the Subaru make, where he performs diagnosis and fixing of engine works, suspension, air conditioning, tuning, full service, among others.
All of the time I was in the workshop doing practicals, engine dismantling, servicing, replacing suspension parts like bushes, shocks, and arms.
His dad, a veteran mechanic, was the fuel behind his passion for cars, which developed at an early age of 14 years. It was at this early stage where he learned the fundamentals of the automotive field by doing manual jobs and offering hand of assistance to his father.
I realized this when I was still very young because my dad was a mechanic. So my ambition was to be also a mechanic. So I began very early enough. At 14 years, I was already in the industry.
As an amateur mechanic, fixing different car makes and models was a fun part of his job. However, his ability to fix Subaru cars well and getting referrals from previous clients owning Subarus was what made him decide to specialize in fixing the renowned sports cars.
Though the other parts of the vehicle, like types of vehicles like Nissan and Mazdas we do, but 80% of what we work on is Subarus.
He later did a certificate course in automotive engineering at Kinyanjui Technical Training Institute as a way of sharpening his skills. The skilled mechanic takes us through a diagnostics process undertaken with the use of a diagnostic machine, which is done once a client arrives at the garage to identify the problem that needs fixing.
We take the VCL connector, insert it in the diagnosed support.
The machine checks on the car's model and make, performing a thorough diagnosis of all the mechanical, technical, and electric aspects of the vehicle. He acknowledges that every business has its challenges.
You know, when doing automotive works, you need a lot of equipment. And those equipments are a bit expensive, so we have some, and some of them, we finish working on it and they do not come and pick up their cars immediately, so we get parking lots filled.
With more than 4 employees, most of them acknowledge how this business has positively shaped their life, with not only a positive working environment, but also training them to be capable mechanical engineers.
I also train these young boys you see here, and almost 4 of them are going to be engineers like I am, and I'm helping them so that they help the generations to come.
Huko nje vijana wenye wamemaliza form 4 class 8 natamani kazi yenye mimi nafanya, naweza ambia hii kazi ni mzuri sana kufanya.
The garage has been in operation for more than 6 years. For many Subaru owners, this is an ideal place to bring their vehicles for servicing and maintenance. And for Patrick and his team, this is their main source of livelihood. Reporting for Young and Industrious, I'm Ian Muse.
Asanteni sana kwa kuwezesha Lotomoto kuwafikia wengi wasiojiweza kupitia star 570#. Hapa umewafuta wengi machozi, umewaelimisha, umewapa makao, umewapa lishe na umewapa matibabu kwa namna tofauti.
Asanteni.
Asanteni.
Asanteni sana.
Na kwako wewe mchezaji wa Lotomoto, unajipa fursa ya kujishindia Probox nayo. Na kama Probox haikufai na umejishindia, tunakupa taslim 750,000 Kenyan shillings na mshindi namtangaza 30th of June. Na mwezi wa July 28th namtangaza mshindi wa Demio nayo. Na kama utaki na umeshinda, wacha gari. Chukua chapa 750,000 Kenyan shillings kwenye star 570 hash. Wewe si mshindi tu, wewe ni tegemeo kubwa. Tusaidie na tushinde!
For 60 years, the African Development Bank Group has played an integral part in Africa's socio-economic transformation. From the 27th to the 31st of May 2024, the African Development Bank Group will host its 2024 annual meetings at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi, Kenya. This year's theme will be Africa's Transformation, the African Development Bank Group and Reform of the Global Financial Architecture. The high-level meetings will be hosted by the President of Kenya, His Excellency Honorable Dr. William Ruto, and the President of the African Development Bank Group, Akinwumi Adesina, and will convene African leaders, development partners, private sector actors, civil society organizations, youth, among other stakeholders. This event will be live on KBC Channel 1.
Mizimu imesema atakayekuwa kiongozi ni yule pete itamchagua.
Bahari imechafuka. Mrithi wangu ni yule atakayeniletea vuo la kuoga.
Sasa na hili vuo wachana nalo, wakati wake umepita.
Pete hii ni ishara ya utawala.
Huu uongozi tusimwachie Jasiri.
Kwa nini uongozi usimwendee Jasiri? Na wauliza nyinyi, Jasiri ana nini?
Kiva, hakuna atakayekusumbua.
Welcome back. Now, plans are underway to set up a virtual tourism innovation hub in Africa to empower the youth to interact and share ideas, as well as fine-tune them and pitch to investors. This emerged at the ongoing Africa Youth in Tourism Innovation Summit and Challenge in Windhoek, Namibia, as Irene Muchuma Odim reports.
Hundreds of delegates at the 6th Africa Youth in Tourism Innovation Summit and Challenge in Windhoek, Namibia, say they will work with universities to put up a virtual tourism innovation hub.
A platform for young people to interact, to present their projects, workshop their project, clean them up to the level that they become bankable or they are able to find partners.
They say artificial intelligence could be harnessed to inform travel decisions and marketing of attractions in Africa.
And possibly leverage the Africa Continental Free Trade Area protocols and initiative to be able to work beyond their countries.
The inventors have resolved to meet after every 3 months to review progress of the initiative.
You will be able to elevate your quality of life from where you were at the start to hopefully giving you a recurring source of income through employment.
Recently, we've also become a central figure towards financial arrangements for the green hydrogen sector, which presents immense opportunities for the youth.
Beyond technology, the Virtual Tourism Innovation Hub is expected to bring cultural change by offering practical solutions to both business persons and customers by reducing time and also cut on costs to be used on resources. Irene Mchuma Udim, Channel 1 at Windhoek in Namibia.
African countries have been urged to prioritize creating SME-focused initiatives that will generate employment opportunities and foster sustainable economic growth. Speaking during the ongoing annual meetings of the African Development Bank Group, the Alliance for Entrepreneurship in Africa says these efforts will allow African governments combine and focus on the technical and financial strengths of small and medium-sized businesses to improve Africa's business environment and support their growth and success.
According to the African Economic Outlook report published by the African Development Bank, close to 22% of Africa's working-age population is starting new businesses. Small and medium-sized enterprises with fewer than 20 employees and less than 5 years' experience now constitute the largest providers of formal employment in sub-Saharan Africa. Aiming to use this as a model to bolster the sector, entrepreneurs have been encouraged to leverage on collaborative partnerships with financial institutions to ease credit access.
What is important when you look at startups is really that you take the startup entrepreneurs from the ideation stage, so they all have great ideas, but then there's often a phase where it's difficult for them to get more support on becoming bankable, becoming investable, becoming a company that really can spread its wings.
Governments have also been tasked to create frameworks that will address the gender divide and ensure equality by expanding diversity and inclusion.
Scale is important in what we're doing. No one single financial institution, no one single DFI will be able to deliver for Africa or even for any other lower or middle income countries without scale. And the scale will not happen from our balance sheets alone, it will happen through co-financing, partnerships and so on.
We'll need to set up initiatives or support existing initiatives, be it banks, agencies, new initiatives that support young and few women-led businesses and enterprises.
Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
Africa can attract global climate resilience financing by putting up internal financial mechanism targeting resilience programs. Namibian Prime Minister Sarah Adila says countries should also develop innovative financing programs to address the yawning climate funding gap facing the continent. The Prime Minister spoke to our reporter Alan Oko on the sidelines of the African Development Bank Group annual meeting held in Nairobi.
Kenya and Namibia have borne the brunt of adverse climate, with the two countries battling cyclical floods and drought in the last 5 years. This has devastated communities and infrastructure, costing the two countries billions of shillings. The two countries have been battling with low climate financing.
Namibia is one of the most affected countries by climate change. But because we are an upper middle income country, we do not always feature at the top of the list of countries to be considered for assistance by development partners.
Namibian Prime Minister Kungonge Ramadira says attracting climate financing will require countries to develop various climate resilience bankable projects that can attract funding easily.
We have been funding ourselves as a government from special levies that we have instituted. We do have a provision under our constitution which obliges the government to ensure environmental protection.
Speaking exclusively to Channel 1, Amadira says one of the drawbacks for countries like Kenya and Namibia is a skewed global financing model, which when reworked will unlock billions of dollars for climate mitigation projects.
Overcharging African countries, especially when they borrow from the international capital markets. I have talked about conditionalities that erode the sovereignty of countries in terms of determining their own policies.
Africa is facing an acute shortage of climate financing, with the continent requiring more than $270 billion against the current funding of $30 billion.
President graced the meetings yesterday and made a very inspiring statement. We also noted the efforts that Kenya has made to amplify the position of Africa in the world in as far as it relates to the issues that we are talking about today.
Member states have ratified the proposal to have a single African passport, despite the proposal having 32 signatories. African Union Commissioner for Economic Development, Albert Mushanga, says the AU needs an additional 11 ratification for the proposal to be adopted and fully in operation, the Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Phase 1 of the African Continental Free Trade Area took effect in January 2021 as the continent plans to reduce trade barriers. The African Union says there is need to expedite the ratification of the single African passport proposal before Phase 2 of the Free Trade Area comes into place.
It takes time to move from one part of Africa to the other part of Africa. So through the single African air transport market, we are advocating for the private sector to really invest more in linking African cities and towns together.
The AU says only 4 member states have ratified the proposal to have a single African passport, despite more than half of the member states signing the agreement.
AU is going to be coming up with the governance assessments of each African country. And we've agreed that is going to be part of the strategic framework, so that each year we are going to really be able to come up with a schedule of how each African country is implementing that.
Plans are also at an advanced stage to roll out an African Union passport to business people to ease movement of goods and services. To support continental trade, the African Development Bank says it will disburse close to 700 billion shillings through its concessional window to support infrastructure.
60% commitment is that we have gone to board and approved an amount of projects worth 60% of the ADF global envelope.
Benson Droba reporting for Prime Edition.
Business along Kenya's section of the Kenol-Sagana-Marua Highway has improved significantly in the recent past following the expansion of the multi-billion shilling highway. The road, which is part of the Great North Road or the Trans-African Highway that stretches from Cairo in Egypt to Cape Town in South Africa, is jointly funded by the African Development Bank and the Kenyan government with a December 2024 completion date. Alan Oko visited the 30 billion shilling highway and filed the following report.
These are the scenes of activity along a section of the just completed Kenol-Sagana-Marua Highway. To be precise, Makutano Interchange, formerly Makutano Junction. One of the traders and beneficiaries of the dualling of the 84-kilometer highway is Irene Wairemo, a trader whose business had to pave way for the project.
Kenol-Marua ilikuja kutusaidia kwa sababu ilipanua biashara yetu na huwa tunafurahia.
Wairemo and our fellow traders say they have seen improved business to their own town as a result of the double capacity of the one single lane road.
Of course, around before Fridays and Sundays, businesses are very good. People are traveling from up country going to Nairobi.
Small business owners happen not to be the only beneficiaries.
So we have farmers as far as Nyeri and this side, and here Kiambu, Kandara, Gatura and all those, and in Moranga also.
The project, whose commence date was October 2020, is funded by the African Development Bank and the government of Kenya at a cost of 30 billion shillings, has however seen its fair share of challenges.
If you have seen along the road, we have a lot of traders. And therefore, the project includes construction of roadside markets.
They've been working reasonably well there in terms of the quality of the work has been found satisfactory. And where there have been issues in terms of time, this has been always been, there have been reasons for that, and there have been efforts made to try and reduce that.
The African Development Bank says it plans to improve intercontinental trade by co-financing the project.
It is true that 10% of this transcontinental highway passes through Kenya. But what is also not in doubt is the social economic impact that the road has done on the traders alongside this particular road. Alan Oko, Prime Edition.
Kenya is seeking to increase the value of exports by 10% over the next 5 years through diversification of the export portfolio. Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency Chairperson Jaswinda Bedi says the plan involves tapping business opportunities under the African Continental Free Trade Area.
We want to embark on a journey to actually advance our export agenda. Our export agenda, as you know, as Lois talked about it, we want to diversify markets, we want to diversify products. It's not just a roadmap. It's a bold vision to the future of Kenya. It's a bold vision that's going to be built on our past success and the opportunities that lie ahead of us.
We want to enhance the export capacities and compliance of Kenyan export products. We want to enhance the access to markets, to increase exports by 10% annually. And here we have a figure, 873.1 billion in 2022 and to 1.5 trillion in 2028.
The Chimpanzee Sanctuary in Laikipia is a rescue center for chimpanzees from all over Africa. Poco and Socrates, both age 44, are the oldest at the Olpejeta Conservancy-based sanctuary, with the youngest at 10 months old. The sanctuary prides of rich but disturbing history of the animal rescued from the tropical rainforests in parts of Africa. But one of the interesting things to note for nature lovers is on tonight's magical scenes with Irene Odem.
Home to at least 39 profoundly damaged chimpanzees, which were rescued from captivity across Africa, Olpejeta's Chimpanzee Sanctuary gives these animals a chance to start all over again. The sanctuary was established in 1993 with an agreement between the Olpejeta Conservancy, the Kenya Wildlife Service, and Jane Goodall Institute. The aim is to provide lifelong refuge to orphaned and abused chimpanzees from parts of West and Central Africa. Here, the chimpanzees are not encouraged to breed. However, at times it happens with the youngest chimpanzee being a 10-month-old. New chimpanzees at the sanctuary are introduced to each member of the troop individually in the holding area. Once they become acclimatized, they are then allowed to join them in the enclosure.
Chimpanzees in captivity, they can live up to 60 years in captivity. In the wild, because of some challenges they normally encounter in the wild, like the diseases, the poachers, so they live up to 40 or 45 years in the wild. So they live for a longer life here because we have vet officer who normally give them some treatment in case of any illness.
One of the saddest stories is of Poco, a chimpanzee who had been kept in what could be described as solitary confinement for 9 years. A workshop owner had allegedly displayed Poco in his shop in a cage so small that Poco was only able to stand or sit on 2 legs for close to a decade. Socrates, an age mate of Poco, on the other hand, like an orphan being passed from one foster home to another, Socrates spent 5 years in Bujumbura being passed from home to home.
We have Socrates, the wise man, or the wise chimpanzee. So the Socrates is 44 years old.
He was one of the first chimpanzees to arrive at the Chimpanzee Sanctuary in 1993. He is said to be inactive, but soon after meeting other chimpanzees, he blended well with the rest and is today said to spend more time playing with the younger ones at the sanctuary.
It's a lot of drama that males normally find themselves in. Like, they normally fight a lot, so they fight each other, even when they are looking for the leadership. Like here, we have some alpha male, we have some leaders. Like this guy here, Oscar is not happy because he's a former alpha male now.
And the story goes on and on about tens of other chimpanzees at the sanctuary. Though they are not indigenous to Kenya, at least there is a place to see and interact with the chimpanzees in Kenya. They need the love and care, which is arguably not so much to ask for from a nature enthusiast.
Because also, you know, this is not their natural habitat, so they live in a tropical rainforest, and this is a savanna woodland area, and we feed them. So we feed them 3 times in a day.
Irene Mchuma Udim, magical scenes in Nanyuki, the county of Laikipia.
Welcome back. A trade delegation from the United States is expected to jet into the country next week to iron out sticky issues under the U.S.-Kenya Strategic Trade and Investment Partnership. Trade Cabinet Secretary Rebecca Miano says the team will meet with trade negotiators from Kenya as Washington and Nairobi seek to hammer a trade deal before the American elections in November. The trade CS spoke to our reporter Carol Njenga on a number of issues, including the just concluded U.S. state visit by President William Ruto.
States have enjoyed a cordial relationship that spans over 60 years. And this can be ratified by the recent visit by President William Ruto and the trade delegation led by the Cabinet Secretary for Trade and Investment, Rebecca Miano. I'm now joined by Madam CS to talk to us about specific trade deals that were signed during the state visit and also about the investments.
Thank you very much. I must start by saying that the visit to the U.S., the state visit by His Excellency the President, was a resounding success. And we started the visit in Atlanta. He started by giving a lecture in the Carter Center. We know that the Carter Center is the Center for Democracy. They had a discussion about the shared values with the U.S., and democracy was at the center stage. There was an event with CNN also, some discussion, and Coca-Cola. And just somebody said that Atlanta is the land of the 3 C's. We have the Carter, we have the CNN, and we have the Coca-Cola that are big businesses. But I also want to say that we got very good business deals. Even when we went to Washington, D.C., after the formal celebrations and invitations at the White House lawn and the bilaterals with President Biden. And I remember one of the meetings that we had was a roundtable with the technology providers. So the specific deals that were signed, first was Coca-Cola, that signed an investment of $175 million. On the technology side, Microsoft announced an investment of $1 billion to partner with G47 of the United Arab Emirates and a Kenyan company to put up green data centers, and this will be the first of its kind in the world, where we shall use the green energy to set up green data centers. We also saw Google, who announced their investment in undersea cables, a cable that will run from Kenya via South Africa all the way to Australia, and that is very important for Kenya. We know when there is interruption in connectivity, businesses are affected, communication is affected, and that will be a significant addition. My ministry and the State Department for Commerce in the United States, we signed a partnership agreement. We want to partner and do business together and have a good business environment, have a robust relationship with the private sector, and we'll be looking at various sectors like manufacturing, agriculture, green industrialization, and that was one of the biggest wins for us, that kind of partnership. We had also other deals that were signed, even business to business. We saw Equity Bank signed something with CNN. We saw the energy sector signed with a company called Marathon. We saw Stanbic signed with another partner, and so there was quite a lot of deals that were signed. US is our second biggest partner after Uganda in terms of trade, but true that there is trade imbalance in favor of the US. And this state visit was partly enabled us to identify more markets for our products so that we can increase our exports to the US. We saw quite a lot of interest. For example, big companies like Walmart being interested in supplies from Kenya, be it nuts, fruits, the avocados. And this visit and the agreements and partnerships that we came up with will help us to just sort out the trade imbalance. I think the task that we have ahead is the implementation and execution of all the discussions. And I see exporting services will be one of the biggest balancer of the trade that will be there between US. It's going to increase a lot. The BPOs, business process outsourcing, is a big win. Our Silicon Savannah, that is the technology. And so we are not only looking at goods, we are also looking at services, which is a major contributor to trying to balance the trade. All these deals will contribute to the economic growth of the country. And you know, when the economy of the country grows, it is a win-win for everyone, including the mwananchi, because it will offer employments. We are working on the numbers to see what kind of employments that will be there. It will support the whole ecosystem of the MSMEs, the whole of the supply chain, and the advisors, the services. So you can see the whole value chain will benefit, and I believe this will be for the benefit of everyone in the country. This state visit, one of our key outcomes, or what we wanted to achieve, is jobs, 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 and jobs for our people. Looking at each and every deal that was discussed, there are significant number of employments that will come with it, be it Coca-Cola, be it Google, be Microsoft, be it all the other people, all the other businesses that were involved. What we are doing now, we are coming up with a matrix, we are coming up with work plans, we are coming up with follow-up actions so that we can actualize. And I'll be able to share with you, when we do the numbers, our anticipated outcome for the jobs. But I see maybe even upwards in the short term, maybe upwards of even 10,000 jobs, and even more. That is in the very short term for those that we can actually do, especially in the ICT world. But going into the future, maybe hundreds of thousands of jobs. For AGOA, we are very, very hopeful. The vibes that we received in the US, indications are that, and especially Congress, there's a lot of support in the renewal of AGOA. We are looking at renewal of up to 2041. And this will be significant for Kenya. Currently, we have only utilized a few items and a few lines, especially textiles and apparels, and some macadamia, some nuts. But we have more than 1,600 line items. And we have come up with an AGOA strategy of how we can utilize more of the opportunities that are available. And so we look forward to the decision being reached later in the year, but we are very, very, very optimistic. On the STEEP, we have had 4 successful rounds of negotiations, and next week, the US team will be here in Mombasa to continue with the negotiations. We have safely closed 4 chapters, including MSMEs, anti-corruption, agriculture, tranche 1. And we are continuing with the other chapters, like the labor chapter, environment chapter. And you know, STEEP is a partnership that wants to have a high level or high standards of a business environment, just sorting out business environment, so that when we get market access and when we are trading, we have already agreed on the standards and that we need to maintain. And so I want to confirm that we are doing quite well. We have an accelerated timetable that we discussed with the US team and with my counterpart, and we anticipate in the next couple of months, maybe the next 4 months, we'll be able to conclude the STEEP negotiations. It is a great honor for Kenya to be the host. Kenya was a host 30 years ago, and it's been brought back to Kenya. First, it sends a signal that Nairobi is a good destination for such business discussions. I was able to attend the meetings yesterday, and the discussions that are ongoing about especially affordability and access of funds for development, for infrastructure, and for other projects that the ADB can fund. We are looking at the transformation of financial architecture. We are looking at the growth and development of Africa, access to electricity, access to education, access to health. So as a ministry, we are taking this as an opportunity to discuss trade issues, how we can plug into the discussions, how we can be at the table to discuss the future of Africa. And we know that trade is an integral part of development. We are looking at increasing intra-Africa trade. We know that intra-Africa trade is at very low levels of about 14%. The Asia intra-trade is upwards of 60%. We see the European intra-trade is over 72%. And in these discussions, I was glad to hear there are discussions to increase trade among African countries with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Because Africa is doing a lot of business except with itself. And that will really spur business and development and even investment in Africa. So we are following keenly and I'll be looking out for the resolutions that will come out of this by the end of the meetings tomorrow.
Africa Cybersecurity Africa and the AI Foundation plans to train 1,000 entrepreneurs across Africa, including 200 from Kenya, in a move aimed at increasing the uptake of the artificial intelligence by businesses. Here is Ian with the details of that story.
Cybersecurity Africa and the AI Foundation says the new training program, mainly targeting businesses, will also build the capacity of students on the facets of cybersecurity.
We'll take individuals to work within institutions solving different problems: governance, pen testing, blue teaming, red teaming, cloud security, all the facets of cybersecurity, and get them ready to go to the workforce.
Students in institutions of higher learning pursuing cybersecurity and artificial intelligence will be offered a one-year fellowship program to enhance their skills.
This will increase the number of people actually getting from institutions of higher learning into the workforce, but also this will increase the confidence of employers that, hey, we are getting people who are skilled.
Players say the earlier businesses embrace artificial intelligence, the more they are likely to protect themselves against cyber threats.
Businesses in Kenya are saying, is my architecture ready? Is my data protection ready? Is my data integrity ready? You know, how do we do that? We kind of need to move that readiness faster, because this technology isn't waiting, right? You know, somebody is going to come and disrupt existing businesses.
Ian Muse for Prime Edition.
Banyan Investment Banking and Hedge Fund plans to monetize Kenyans and carbon credit assets in the initiative that will utilize IA-enabled drones to measure carbon credit deposits in real time. The company says the expansion to Kenya will address the growing demand for digital financial services and digital currencies to enhance access to financial services.
People will exchange goods and services. They will barter within the marketplace. Now, when they barter within the marketplace, which currency you use? Complementary currency is complement shilling. It's not taking shilling away. So Litecoin is that currency that you can use when you trade. You call someone a painter, can you come and paint my house? But you've got no shilling, because it didn't earn shilling, but you start earning Litecoin, because Litecoin will provide a lot of things where you can earn something.
Absa Bank Kenya has, in partnership with the Africa Guarantee Fund, launched a county program to empower at least 30,000 women led in micro, small and medium-sized businesses in Kakamega, Bungoma and Vihiga counties. The target, they address gender-based disparities and overcome economic challenges women entrepreneurs face by providing them with tools and resources to grow their businesses.
Offer training in business registration, taxation, marketing, savings and investments, budgeting, financial planning, bookkeeping, business digitization, market linkages beyond counties, and cross-border training.
Our program is intense. Our program is about access to finance, access to markets. And when I say markets, I know right now we are a couple of counties here, but the truth is we want you to be able to travel across the different countries.
The program that will be rolled out across all counties seeks to create a more inclusive and prosperous future for Kenyan women, address gender-based disparities, and overcome economic challenges women entrepreneurs face.
The launch of the Women Economic Empowerment is a major step in the journey towards gender equity and inclusivity.
The program seeks to enhance economic participation and entrepreneurship among 70% of women and improve financial literacy and management skills for 90% of participants.
The Empower Her County program is more than a series of workshops and training sessions. It is a testament to our commitment to fostering entrepreneurship and financial literacy among small and medium-sized enterprises.
The International Labour Organization says about 60% of women employment globally is in the informal economy, with this figure surpassing 90% in low-income countries. Edna Murungi for Prime Edition.
Asset financier Mogo has secured 1.3 billion shillings from a U.S. International Development Finance Corporation for onward lending to Kenya's transitioning to e-mobility. Mogo country manager Thomas Menki says the funding targets to increase sustainable mobility options for self-employed boda operators and SMEs in Kenya.
The Kenyan government has set a goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 32% within the next 6 years, with a crucial component being the transition to zero-emission mobility. The transportation sector is a significant contributor, accounting for 67% of the country's energy-related CO2 emissions and 11.3% of total greenhouse gas emissions. To drive this, Mogo says it has secured a $10 million loan facility, which is equivalent to 1.3 billion shillings from the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation to expand its electrical vehicle financing portfolio. E-bikes reduce operating costs by 30 to 35% due to savings on fuel expenses and maintenance. The 7-year loan comes after Mogo opened its first ever electric motorbike shop in Kenya, targeting the provision of affordable e-bikes to boda operators and promoting environmentally friendly transportation in the country. Mogo Kenya, which is a subsidiary of the global multi-brand fintech company Elevin Group, focuses on financing motorcycles, e-bodas, tuk-tuks and cars, which are essential tools for mobility and income generation. Mogo country manager Thomas Meneke says the asset financing firm has financed over 120,000 customers in Kenya to acquire mobility assets in the last 5 years.
Sports News is brought to you by Mozart Bet.
Yes, indeed, it is time for Sports. Bernardo Kumu. Let's begin with boxing, where it is the end of the road for Kenyan boxers on the road to the Paris Olympics after Peter Abuti lost his heavyweight bout to Polish Matthews Breznik in the second and final World Boxing Olympic qualifiers in Bangkok, Thailand. Now Abuti lost on points to Matthews in the round of 32 bout, where he gave it all as the last Kenyan standing. Abuti was given a bye in the preliminaries, unlike his compatriots who have also been bundled out from the qualifiers. This means that there will be no Kenyan boxer in the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, with Africa most affected because of the reduced quotas by the International Olympics Committee, IOC. And to rugby now, where the Kenya National Rugby Sevens team will leave nothing to chance as they begin their final quest to regain their core status tomorrow evening when they face Samoa in the Sevens Grand Final promotion and relegation playoff matches. Now Shujaa, who were runners-up in the Challenger Series after 3 rounds, will be out to avenge the consecutive defeats against Samoa in Pool B, where they also have a date with the host Spain tomorrow night. The team, which spent 10 days in Miramas, France, preparing for the Grand Final, will wrap up their group matches against Chile on Saturday morning. The 3-day event at the Metropolitano Stadium, home of Atletico Madrid Football Club, will see 8 men's and women's teams playing for their status, with the final matches being played on Sunday, set to decide which 4 men's and women's team will secure their places back in the World Series. Athletics now, where former 1500 meters champion Timothy Cheruiyot will be among a host of world champions and record holders who will be in action tonight in the Bislett Games in Oslo. Timothy will be up against a meet record holder Jacob Ingebrigtsen of Norway after his comeback from injury in an eagerly awaited 1500 meters race of the 6th meeting of the Diamond League Series, where he aims for victory after finishing second in Doha. He'll be joined by his compatriot Boaz Kiprugut as they bid for a Kenyan sweep. 2022 world silver medalist Stanley Mburu will be the Kenyan lone runner in the 5,000 meters race, where he will challenge Tokyo Olympics champion Joshua Cheptegei of Uganda in his build-up to Paris Games. Edna Jebitok and Caroline Nyaga will feature in the 3,000 meters, determined to make it count. Also, the Oslo Diamond League meeting will also feature para sprint race across 3 classifications for the 3rd consecutive year. And to Matters across the borders, where Olympiacos became the first Greek club to triumph continentally after they beat Fiorentina 1-0 to win the Europa Conference League last night at OPAP Arena. Fiorentina had an outstanding match, but both teams could not get a goal, with the game seeming to be headed for penalties. Olympiacos striker El Kabi of Morocco, who scored 5 goals against Aston Villa in the semis, scored in the 116th minute to secure their first European trophy. Now, Fiorentina participated in the final for the 6th time, but lost again for the 2nd time following last season's defeat by West Ham.
Champions of the Europa Conference League.
And that's it from me. Remember, let's do this again tomorrow. I'm Bernard Okumu.
Sports News was brought to you by Mozart Bet.
You can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Well, sports marks the end of tonight's bulletin. From me and the rest of the team, we do want to wish you a very good night.
Watch the Mozart Bet Cup as teams from both the top tier and low tier battle for the ultimate prize of representing the country in Africa's CAF Confederations Cup. Catch all the action live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, beginning with a round of 16 matches, the quarter-final, semi-final and the final. Mozart Bet Cup, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
For 60 years, the African Development Bank Group has played an integral part in Africa's socio-economic transformation. From the 27th to the 31st of May 2024, the African Development Bank Group will host its 2024 annual meetings at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi, Kenya. This year's theme will be Africa's Transformation, the African Development Bank Group, and Reform of the Global Financial Architecture. The high-level meetings will be hosted by the President of Kenya, His